All right, welcome back to the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery. My name is Dave, cover the Bears for SM. As always, joined by my good friend, co-host, Chicago Bears content creator, Ficky, and we have Jack, our producer on the sticks, who will be joining the show today as well. Last pod, we had a little bit to talk about. We had Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, who actually met with the media today. We'll get to that later. Really awesome press conferences across the board for most of the people, most of the players that signed, along with Poles and Ben Johnson. But we have a lot to discuss today in this episode. We have, obviously, the new free agents, Dahlman, Dayo, and Grady Jarrett, who has become a leading fan favorite already with his presser. And like I said, we'll get to that, all the pressers, a little bit later in the show. Before we hop into anything, though, glad everyone's joining us on this, what is it, Monday? No,
Wednesday.
Wednesday? Good Lord.
Yeah, bro. I know.
It is all messed up. I tell you what, man. When it comes to like this off season, the days just blend together for me.
Because you don't have a Sunday to look forward to. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Everything's out of when the players meet with the media, you got the coaches, the routine. When it's the off season, especially right now where it's weird. It's free agency. No one's really got a coordinated schedule outside of maybe the agents. But
right.
Ficky, I know you were in Nashville this past weekend. Jack, I know you're just doing stuff and living life. How are we doing, boys? How are we feeling?
Tired. I was a little pissed because I was at like a work conference, and I was actually sitting next to my boss's boss, and he's a big Bears fan, and he knows I am too. And I was like, man, they had to schedule this during free agency because he couldn't even, I can't keep up. I couldn't tweet, all that stuff. I'm seeing the news late. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like a newbie over here. But then it comes to find out, I see you guys are not able to see it either because the first 5 to 30 minutes, Twitter decides to implode. I think it was an hour before that as well. So
a couple hours, yeah, bro. 7, 8, because I was up early. I was like, I got to prepare for the day. It's a big day.
For sure.
It was down. So I was like, oh, this is odd. And then it went down again around 9 a.m. Central Time. And then about 10:20 a.m. Central Time, about 40 minutes until, the go live time for free agency. And it was 11:05. It was still broken. So it was 5 minutes had passed. There was I think maybe 1 or 2 deals announced by some of the big guys, Shefty and stuff. But yeah, I was a little pissed, man. And then people were saying go to Blue Sky. I was like, I'm not going to Blue Sky. So I went on basically the ESPN app, and I was like, I'll check it out.
That's the only way I could tell is I was getting push notifications from the ESPN app, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I couldn't remember my login for Blue Sky, so that's another reason I couldn't get on there. I was like, and I was not going through that trouble. So I said, I'm going to wait for ESPN. But yeah, I'm glad it obviously started working again. But Nashville, pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it's Nashville. It wasn't my first time, so, I was used to what it was. But, I mean, it's Nashville. It's hard to go to Nashville and not have a good time. You don't get enough sleep, I can tell you that much. So, right after this show, I'm passing out like the old man I am and trying to catch up on all that. And as you can tell, most of my voice is gone, too, because all those bars are 500 decibels with all the country and rock music. So, a lot of yelling from me. So, but it was a good time. Jack, how about you? Where's your headspace at? How you been?
It was really good to bring up the Twitter outage because I forgot about it till right now. That was, I don't even know what event compares to that. That was the worst thing that's ever happened in my whole life. I think
out of everything.
I think that's right there with the worst day of my whole life. Those few hours, dude. I was clawing at everything. I was trying to refresh Instagram. Who uses Instagram for this shit? And then even then, Shefty's every other signing you'd post on there, and then it would come back for 3 seconds, and you'd see everything, be like, all right, it's back, tell all your friends it's back, and then
it just fell off a cliff again.
And it was gone again. Yeah, I mean, that was an absolute nightmare, especially on I said it, or Elon said it was a cyber attack, but I seriously, it could not.
I didn't even know
timing. Oh yeah,
I didn't even know there was there was a reason about it. I couldn't even see that, but
yeah, he said it was a major cyber attack, but I mean, it seriously it's a joke almost that it was an hour before NFL free agency. That it could have been today. No one would give a shit. Yesterday, no one would give a shit. Monday,
one of the biggest days on Twitter. Well, I don't know if that's true, but from a sports standpoint, this is any major big event, Oscars, all that stuff. Twitter can't go down. That's what Twitter is for. Everybody is on there to see the news and then talk about what's going on across, that ecosphere, whatever big event. So yeah, that's I mean, maybe a cyber attack was it. I mean, not to get too in the weeds, but that would make sense. If you're going to attack Twitter, this is the perfect time to do it. If you want to,
yeah, but that's almost like a declaration of war to do it on free agent. Like anything messing with the NFL big days, like the draft, like that's like. I'm not saying we should have went to war or anything like that, but it's like it is very serious. It's very serious.
I will lead the men
for sure.
If we find out right now that it was like Putin's behind this thing, like this is a Russian attack,
England,
I will fucking charge right now. I don't know how to get there. I don't even know where it is. I will go.
You hear that, Army? Jack's ready to get drafted.
I know Phil's ass is going wherever I go. I will follow Phil, and we will march to Russia, and I will take anyone down. That's
hilarious.
Dude, that was seriously like
No, that was annoying though. It's like God, it's like coming down for Christmas and no presents are there. That's
exactly.
What that was. I was like, yo, what is this?
Yeah, and you kind of see it, but then you don't know if it's there.
What? Oh man.
I was mentioning England because I guess like that's why people are saying the Premier League, like their football, soccer is better. As far as like I don't know what it was.
The true football, right?
Yeah. Anyways, that was crazy. It was I was pretty upset when it was going down, just because I saw a comment. You're kind of going to Facebook or just the app, the ESPN Bleacher Report app for all that. But anyways, a lot of news. Real quick, we did touch base last week on our pod on Friday. We had Nick Whalen on there. Before we get into that, Tito with a $5 super chat. Fick, you want to read it?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Tito, as always. Hall of Fame Grizzly member. We appreciate you. Also, great meeting you on the Patreon call. That was awesome. So good to have a face to a commenter here. So $5 from Tito, as always, the OG in here. Says, O-line's looking good, boys. I'm thinking Genty at 10 if he's there. Yeah, if he's there. Let's say Genty, Campbell, Graham are gone at 10. You're saying Graham and who's Campbell? Oh, Will Campbell. My bad. Okay, I see what you're saying. Genty, Will Campbell, and Graham are gone at 10. What are we doing? Trade down or pick who? Got you. So I think all three of those have a very high possibility of not being there, just like Dave, just gone. So if he's not there, I saw a mock that had us taking Hampton, the running back out of UNC.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's so much hype about him, and I need to go more into the weeds about it because I'm not sure like where the hype is, like where that's coming from. I know he's like a big specimen and he does fit like Ben Johnson's type of running back, someone who kind of like waits for the gap and then shoots it, right? Doesn't bounce around like our running back, like Swift. So, I mean, and also it's parallel to what the Lions did with Jahmyr Gibbs. If you remember, that was the Bijan year. Bijan went 7 or 6 to the Falcons, and then literally the Lions traded back, and then they picked up Jahmyr Gibbs. So I could see us doing something similar where we could trade back and then maybe getting someone like Hampton, running back. I don't think we'll do Campbell because his arms are so short. And if you look at all, like most of the solid to really good tackles starting right now, like Will Campbell would have the shortest arms. Doesn't mean he can't be successful there, but like the data would say otherwise. And I don't think Graham is going to be there. I think Graham's going to be gone like by pick 5. I think he's going to be other than Abdul Carter and Hunt. It'll be a quarterback, then a mix of quarterback. So Cam Ward, then probably Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter in some particular order. And then I think it'd be Mason Graham. So I don't think we'd be able to get to him unless we trade it up. But great questions, Tito. Great questions.
Yeah, the Hampton hype kind of came out of nowhere. I think he killed the combine.
He did.
And then the relevancy popped up. But even then, it's like again, it's just more of a fantasy football thing that I know because I'm not tracking UNC running backs. But yeah, apparently he killed the combine and shot up on draft boards. I don't know where they have him going. I thought it was late first.
I've seen him even mid, like he keeps getting pushed up more and more. And obviously that, like you said, the combine does that. I mean, he had a pretty decent year though. 281 carries, 15 touchdowns, 1,600 rushing yards, and a pop of 5.9 yards per carry. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So I wouldn't be mad about that, especially if we do a trade down at 10 or something like that. Because I just don't feel Genty is actually going to be there. Like I feel like he's also climbed up because before it's like, oh, Genti is going to be like top 15, 10 to 15, something like that. And now it seems like he's going to be like 6 to 10, somewhere in there. And the Raiders, I think, Dave, you brought this up on one of the shows. I think the Raiders probably have him at the top of his board. So I don't think he's going to make it to us. But if he does, obviously, I would take Genti in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird conversation real quick on the running back situation because everyone's like it's almost a unanimous decision by Bears fans that we need a running back. But at the same time, like we have DeAndre Swift, who's he's a solid back. Like it's not like he's the worst player in history. No. So it's crazy that I'm at the point I think where unless it's Genti, even then I'd kind of be like, I don't know, why not go for that Caleb Johnson in the third or something, or just find someone late? Like Ollie Gordon's going late. Like these big name, decent running backs that are good complement. Like why?
Is it Judkins, Ohio State too?
Judkins.
Judkins, sorry.
Judkins. You have Henderson from Ohio.
You have Henderson.
There's so many
Trey.
people, so why waste unless it's a big trade back? Say we trade to 16, and then we get some shit here, and then,
I think it's a really good point, Jack, because I'm in the same boat where it's like I almost want to go left tackle or just continue in the trenches.
But you heard what they said today, Dave. It seems like, and we'll talk about in the presser, but it seems like they're sticking with Braxton Jones. And I was watching something, Matt Miller, who's a draft expert for ESPN. He called in to one of the Chicago, I think it was the Score.
I've seen that.
And he said from what he's heard, because he actually has talked to Bowles, that he feels pretty confident that they're sticking with Braxton at least this year. Yeah. So he said offensive line is basically off the board at 10. It doesn't mean it won't happen because nothing's absolute in the NFL draft.
Respectfully, Matt Miller, I don't know if I 100%. I don't think he's as plugged in as some. And I think it's just way too early because at the same time, what if someone falls, right? What if a blue chip tackle, or something
for sure.
Will Campbell
for sure. Anything's possible.
Because at the end of the day, depth is just going to be so important. And I think you can do better than Braxton Jones, but we'll talk about the tackles later. More so about Swift because he is actually pretty good. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of people probably don't or underestimating is if they do run it back with him, which they should, he's going to have a better line. He's going to have a better scheme. It's going to be better coaching. And he had over 1,000 all-purpose yards or yards from scrimmage last year in a very dysfunctional, I'm talking speed option on fourth down, like that type of chaotic stuff. And he was still able to produce. Sure, he had some blemishes, some plays that you're like, what the hell, right? But, and his turnaround, I remember first 4 weeks of the season, maybe 6 weeks actually, it was like, is this one of the worst signings of free agency last year? And then all of a sudden it turned around. And there was times where Caleb, they just could not get anything going on offense, and he would just put the team on his back, score a 45-yard touchdown out of nowhere, and pull the Bears within like a one-score game in the second half. It happened a couple of times last year. So for me,
happened a lot.
Yeah.
I want to see Swift with a better scheme, a better offensive line, and just better coaching, because I think we have not seen the best from him, although he did have a pretty productive year, all things considered.
Yeah,
so,
you're spot on, because it's not fair to say that Caleb, he needs a line and then he can play better, but then your running back doesn't get the same situation or the same
treatment
excuse almost. Yeah, the same treatment. So we said, DeAndre was just fine in Philly, and they obviously had one of the top lines, and then we had one of the bottom lines in the entire NFL with the dysfunction you're talking about. But then everyone's like, let's move on, let's go find somebody else. But that's not fair to do that and then say Caleb, he'll have the big bounce back here.
Well, can I be a devil's advocate? And it's not, I agree with you guys on that, but I don't think if you draft a running back, it's not to replace DeAndre Swift. I think it's to be in tandem with DeAndre Swift, just like
similar to Detroit.
Yeah. But I mean, look, that's all I'm saying is, look, I don't know who they're going to draft, right? But just speculation wise, if they pick a running back, that's literally what the Lions, which Ben Johnson was a part of, did when they had Monty already. They got Monty in free agency. So kind of the similar situation. You just got a running back, and then you decide with your first round pick, which I think was 13. So it was close to 10, close to where we're at. It was 13 or 15. They traded back and they picked up Jahmyr Gibbs. Right. And it worked out. And everyone's like, that was a great decision. At the time, though, everyone was like, what is Detroit doing? That's what I was thinking, too. I'm like, what are you doing, getting a running back this early? But if you scout correctly and your evaluations are good and the player turns out well, I would 100% take it. But again, we won't know. We don't know any of this. We don't know what's behind closed doors. But great question, Tito, because it definitely has all of us thinking. And which kind of alluding to the presser coming up here that we'll talk about, and based off the moves that we saw from free agency, there's so many options now at 10. They could go tackle. Mm-hmm. They could go running back. They could go, they really can go anywhere but quarterback, in my opinion, and probably wide receiver.
Yeah. First of all, yeah. Thank you, Tito, again for the donation. We appreciate that. And you're 100% right. GM Ryan Poles on free agency during the presser today, which we can kind of go into. We'll bounce around from, like I said, there's been a lot of players that were added since last Friday when we had our Friday pod. But GM Ryan Poles on how free agency impacts, how this free agency is already impacting the NFL draft. He went and said it really opens up the entire board for us. And so, one, I don't believe he said that, just to say it, right? He typically does not just throw stuff out there. I truly believe Poles could take a running back at 10. However, in my opinion, just with the MO, with what, because if you look at Detroit, where Ben Johnson spent majority of his last, 3-4 years, they didn't just have the best offensive line. They just had depth, and they just had players, like one would go down, next player, next man up. So for me, even like a Will Campbell, right? I don't think he gets to 10, but a guy that obviously plays tackle could maybe go to guard at the NFL. To have somebody, sure, you don't want a top 10 pick not playing, but at the same time, throw competition out there, with whether it be anybody, right? Whoever they draft against Braxton Jones, even Jonah Jackson, which they already alluded that Joe Thuney is going to stay at left guard. Mm-hmm. Jonah Jackson's going to be right guard, is what Ben Johnson said today during his presser. But for me, I think it's refreshing where it's like, I just want to see them continue to dominate in the trenches, because I think that's what's going to be we saw it with Philly in the Super Bowl. It's like, that is truly what separates teams. And if you look at what Minnesota's doing, right, which they could potentially get Aaron Rodgers, apparently that's kind of crazy. Maybe we can get that in a minute. But
like copy and paste.
It is, with Brett Favre. But at the same time, I mean, those are some crazy weapons. Justin Jefferson, Addison,
you'd be fine.
Good line, KOC. I mean, that would really be frustrating.
Sam Darnold thrived in it. So what would make me think that he couldn't? So
yeah, as long as he has enough gas in the tank. But
Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, and Breece Hall would tell me that it can't fucking work.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean,
true.
I think.
But was their offensive line? Their offensive line.
Yeah, then we're guaranteed third or higher. He's got a joke. 41. What a joke.
No, he's definitely he's definitely not
I like that. Trenches equals titles on YouTube. Nick Rember. I think I said that correct, that last name. But yeah, trenches equals titles for the most part, at least wins, and consistency, in my opinion. So, and that's what Caleb needs. So we'll get to the draft. We're gonna have plenty in the next we're about a little over a month and a half away from
40 days
from the draft. Oh, we got a countdown. I like that.
I think I saw recently it was like 50 days. I'm just assuming it's probably
it's 43 days away. 16 hours.
I do love the draft. I do love it though. So
no, I'm super stoked too. We'll have our full draft episode. We're gonna have a lot of mock drafts coming too. I know we haven't had any on this channel yet, but they are coming now with free agency starting to kind of get wrapped up. You're seeing a lot of needs filled, obviously, by Chicago. So, let's go through. I want to go through and grade some of these. I've went ahead and wrote some pieces on SM about just grading some of the acquisitions and free agency. It's really tough because obviously they had not played a snap. How I grade it and how we're going to do it on this pod is simply process, right? Price, process, and then production based on what they've done in the past. And then age, right? I think that's another thing when it comes to these things. And the Bears have kind of done a little bit of both. Obviously added Joe Thuney through trade and Jonah Jackson. But the big one, tight end Durham Smith.
Yes. 1 year, right?
1 year deal. That one's interesting. I don't know.
He's just a blocking tight end. He's gonna fill in the Mercedes Lewis role. So,
and that kind of goes to which I'm excited about our mock drafts coming up because you could go tight end too early.
You could.
I know I like Cole Kmet, but
you can go. You can go Warren. You could go Colston from Michigan. So yeah, there's so many opportunities at 10.
Anyways, though, a big one, and I want to start here with Grady, defensive line, Atlanta Falcons, Grady Jarrett. He was not a free agent until Monday when he got cut by Atlanta. He'd been there with them almost 10 plus years. His entire career in the NFL was with Atlanta. It's his hometown. Really awesome guy. He had a presser today that was
fantastic.
I've seen a lot of players come through. Obviously, their introductory press conferences, those are, they're not extremely important, right? But at the end of the day, if you do well, it is really exciting. It reminds me of like Akeem Hicks. And today, I mean, he absolutely killed that press conference. A lot of personality. But before we jump to that, I want to grade this deal. The Bears signed him. I had the numbers here. Does anybody have the numbers on top?
Yeah, I think I do. 1 second. It was 3 years. 3 years, 43 million with 28 million guaranteed. Well, really 43.5 million. And then it's 28.5 of that is guaranteed. He's 31. He'll turn 32 in April.
And I think they have an out for year 3, right? It's
all of these
2 year.
Yeah. Well, most so the NFL with the contracts, as we talked about in the last episode, the guaranteed money is more in the front and there's nothing on the back end. So you can cut and be good. So really you're looking at a 2-year, $28 million contract because that extra 10 is that final year. And you don't have to worry about that. But also before we get started though, just to kind of give people like level set, all of these deals are like 3 years and you know what happens in 3 years. We have to pay Caleb Williams. That's intentional.
You're hoping you get to extend him. Yeah.
Hopefully, right? Or maybe in a year before that. But I just want that to be like noticed because it's very intentional by polls on that because you're hoping, like you said, I should say hoping that there's a big payday coming and you want those all to align so you can get your future franchise quarterback paid.
Yep, that's the goal. That's the goal. And obviously you want to take advantage right now, hopefully have some winning seasons and that lead to some playoff appearances. That's the goal. That's the ultimate goal. So Grady Jarrett, obviously I think the deal, I guess we could start with that, right? He's going to be 32 in April. Pretty productive, pretty dependable outside the ACL in 2021.
Yeah.
I want to know, since we have not got initial reactions before we hand out our grade for this one, Ficky, I'll start with you. When you saw this one, how did it make you feel? Instant gut reaction. And then if you want to hand out a grade as well.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So at first I was kind of shocked first that the Atlanta decided not to go with him because he's like, I live in Atlanta. He has literally a billboard. It's been Grady Jarrett like since I've been here. Like if you live in Atlanta, everyone knows Grady Jarrett. He had 2 Pro Bowl years. Like it was like a 3-year span. He was one of the best defensive tackles, obviously minus Aaron Donald in the NFL. So real dominant. Like you said, he's kind of been consistent throughout his career. So I'm going to talk about the cons first. Some of the negative stuff is that, he is 31 and 32. The age is important. He downplayed it, which is good, but historical data would say, I talked about this last time, a lot of times defensive linemen, once they get past that 30-year mark, you start to see them slip. We saw that with Akeem Hicks. Loved him, but there was a decline at that point. So there is always concern with that. But I can't be the one to complain about the trenches and then get upset when you make a move that is an upgrade. Doesn't mean he has to play every down, but it is an upgrade. I can't then be upset about polls in the process, right? So I'll do the process part of what he did there. 3 years, is that a little long? Maybe not really when it's only 2 years guaranteed. I'm okay with that. So if we walk away and we get one good year of Grady Jarrett, I'm actually happy. Then it's probably worth it, right? Because then the back half year, you can you missed. You're 50%. You can cut that third. I'm not worried about that. So is it a lot of money? Yes. But it's free agency. Like all these guys are getting more than what you expect. At least with Grady Jarrett, his floor is higher than it's not projection as much because he's been in the league for 10 years. So you know what you're getting from him. Another big thing, which I also learned from the presser, I've heard him talk before, but what's important, just like how we talked about with Joe Thuney, the leadership he's going to bring, let's not act like this 10-year vet is not going to have an impact from a leadership, right? We talked about the buzzwords, accountability. This team has no accountability. Best believe that Grady Jarrett's going to bring some accountability to that side of the ball. So I'm excited because, don't want to do a player comp because that's not always fair, but like it does give you those vibes of Akeem Hicks, right? Even if Akeem Hicks wasn't balling at his best, Akeem Hicks was a foundational piece of keeping that defense together, a leadership role, a voice in that locker room, and just a nasty motherfucker, right? And so if you take all of that in, I feel good about the move based off where we're at now and what we're trying to build. It's a great rotational piece for that interior defensive line. I feel much better now with Billings, Dexter, right? Dexter's showing some promise. We saw how good Billings was last year because when we was out, our run game was horrible. And now you have Grady Jarrett. So all of that, I'm giving the grade like a B-, and I'm okay with that.
B-. It's interesting. I want to, I guess before we head over to you, Jack, I kind of want to play because you talked about production and one thing I was listening to, it was either reading or listening to something about Atlanta and they were talking about, maybe it was the radio, talking about Grady Jarrett and his leadership because he is a quieter guy, right? He kind of lead by example. Today in his presser, he definitely seemed a little bit more outgoing than what they kind of alluded to. Another thing is Atlanta, I think it's very important. They tried to get an extension done. It just didn't work out right. The money wasn't matching. But they did not just want to get, it wasn't like how, sometimes it's really time to move on, like move on. Cup. It's better. Yeah. Even Cup, it's better to move on, a year early than a year late. It's what people typically say. And with Grady Jarrett, Atlanta was not even trying to move on yet. I think they obviously see some value in him because they were trying to get that extension done. And so I think that's important because kind of shows from what, and he even said he was ready to go. He would not be here if he didn't think he could continue to play at a high level, right? He would retire. And so I'm not going to share the video, but I wanted to play a snippet about, because I think when people see the stats, sometimes it's like, especially for a defensive tackle, sacks are not everything, but that's what I feel like is the mainstay or what you typically look for, or what you see people like trying to get as far as like, oh, is he productive or not? Because he was the all-time franchise leader in Atlanta for quarterback hits. Mm-hmm. And he alluded to that in his presser. So I'm going to share this right now, just the audio. So I might be able to, let me see here. Let's see. Do you want to pull that other
I got
thing up here? Might be able to actually just use this from the.
Wait a second. Should have it right there. There we go.
Cool. Okay. I'm just going to play it from right here. I guess I can move it just a little bit up. This is one of my favorite parts of the presser regarding Grady Jarrett.
How have you been able to be so disruptive from the interior for the last 10 years?
I think just being relentless in the pass rush on 36 sacks. I am the franchise leader in quarterback hits as well. And I'm, sometimes guys, throw that in there. Sometimes you get seasons. Sometimes where guys may have like 8 hits, but they might have 6 sacks. You're like, dang, you might have a guy who have 20, 25 hits and have 3 or 4 sacks, but affecting the quarterback is the bottom line. Getting them off the spot, getting them uncomfortable. So to be able to be in a position from an interior standpoint, it means a lot, especially when you're going to have dominant guys from the outside coming in every direction and whatever else Coach Allen draw up, So being able to be a piece to add to this already group that's here, it means a lot.
And I think I have a couple of clips. If we can stay on this one right here, Fick, for this spotlight. Because I think I have a couple more I want to show. But my caption is pretty self-explanatory. I like Grady Jarrett. The energy he brought today. And I think there's another clip. I won't share this one. Just where he was fired up to be in Chicago. I think the Bears social page showed it. So overall, I know you said a B-, Jack. I want to get to your grade before I get to mine here. Regarding Grady Jarrett. So how are you feeling? Instant reaction when you saw this one go down?
Yeah. So 2 things. One, the trade was kind of, or like, I just think I picture like the notification of Grady Jarrett to the Bears. Very Khalil Mack-esque, very Khalil Mack, where it was just like not on anyone's radar, out of nowhere. You could, I don't know. It was very surprising to me. I'm obviously very excited. He's a very good player. He's very, very well respected in the league, especially in terms of defensive tackles. Like, this is one of the few guys that you definitely want, and all 32 teams would agree on that. Second thing I wanted to kind of dive into, and that's more of a rant type thing, is like the age discussion is an interesting one in the NFL, especially with like fans, because like we are very surrounded with, fantasy and Madden and college football games and stuff where like when we make deals, we like the Micah Parsons rather than the Lane Johnsons. You know what I mean? Like it's younger versus older. But however, a lot of the bigger, more successful NFL players in the NFL right now are the older ones. And so I'm not saying that we're going to have Grady Jarrett till he's 48 years old here, but having him for those 2-3 years is game-changing shit, man. Like, I just think like first person that goes into my mind and most likely most people's is Derrick Henry being a 31-year-old running back. Like in no way would anyone be like, oh, I don't know about that, but he's a top performer at his position. And look what he did last year. There's no way that Grady can't do the exact same thing. So again, the age thing, it kind of frustrates me to see it on Twitter. Not that I care what anyone else says, but it is a little annoying to like kind of shit on a really good deal by saying that the age is a problem because it's not.
As long as they're productive. Yeah. As long as they're productive.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. You don't want a washed up 30-year-old. Like Aaron Rodgers is too old. Yeah. Like all jokes aside, he's 41 years old. Like that's really old. And when he's falling off, like you said, got to be productive. Overall grade. I don't know how you got B-. I don't know where you came up with that. I'm at like, I would say A- would be like me lying just so I don't sound crazy. I'm at like an A. I would say 9.7 out of 10. I'm super excited. I think that it just adds that generation, that big help we needed in trenches. We said we need to build the D-line. We kind of have some question marks here and there, like Javon, obviously a very good player. We don't know if he's going to be a top player in the league in this position, but Grady obviously solves a big hole. And it's so exciting to be able to open up the draft in that 10 spot. Like we spent 10 minutes of the show at the beginning talking about what we could do, and it's about anything at this point. So 9.7 out of 10, I'm stoked.
I like it. I agree. I think I'm probably somewhere in the middle between both of you guys. I was so shocked that because he was released that morning and then a deal got done just a few hours later. And Poles was asked about it in his presser today, and they were shocked. I think it was very funny because they're just like us. He said he found out via social media, right, that he was released. So then they go back, they hurry up, go through, I think their evaluations because I guess they had done some work on him. Not sure why, but how did we grade this player out? Apparently it was very high. They got on the phone. They got on the obviously contacted his agent, and they got a deal done really quick. It was very high on their board, and he jumped that way. Because obviously they had no idea he was going to be available. So first of all, love the process to jump on that. And then some of the pros that you guys talked about, one of the biggest thing was it reminded me of like, so Joe Thuney, obviously Super Bowl champion 4-time. I think he has a lot. He's a Hall of Famer, probably, right? Credentials at least. Yeah. So on that side of the ball, you have someone like that, right? I would say Grady Jarrett is similar in that regard. Obviously not as decorated.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I mean, a leader might not be the most talkative, but based on what I saw today and what we just showed you, I mean, you could see his energy, he's personable. I think the locker room's going to love him. I think the media is going to love him. And he's not necessarily a winner because Atlanta hasn't been great, but he is consistent, he's productive, and he's a vet. And so I'm excited about have those two staples on both sides of the ball, defensive lines or offensive line, defensive line with Joe Thuney and now Jarrett. So some of the cons that I wanted to get to, like I said, I wrote about this on Sports Mockery, just kind of grading the deal, going through it and kind of going through the pros and cons of this type of player. So the ACL, I think, is not a big deal in my opinion. He's obviously bounced back. I think last year was an ankle. He's pretty durable. I think the only thing here is the money and the
That's
age.
my thing.
Always going to be a bit of a gamble when you have someone who's going to be 32. And then on top of that, the position he plays is, I mean, he's been playing defensive tackle for how long? I mean, not just in the NFL, he's been playing it since high school, right? So this guy has years and hours as a defensive tackle, also at the highest level in the NFL. So, I mean, for me, I feel a little bit more reassured hearing him today and the energy he has, but we'll see what it looks like, during OTAs, training camp, and everything like that. But I would say the risk is always there, but I like this type of gamble, right? It does remind me a little bit of Akeem Hicks, like you said. But I think this guy, I think he has at least, if you can get 2 years out of him, even 1 year, really, a really good 1 year while Caleb's on this rookie deal, it's everything, right? And so if you can get 2, I think that's what Chicago's aiming for, because you have an out after year 3, like similar, like a lot of these signings. But overall, it is still a bit of a gamble, but I think it could turn out to be a really big win for Chicago. And I like it. So I graded it actually a B on my article here. Obviously, he has not taken a snap, but just based on everything we kind of talked about, productive, age, everything like that, I think it's worth it. I was shocked at, like I said, how fast this came together. And then he really, I would even raise this to a B+ after I saw his pressure today, because there was another point where he he called, we talked about Jordan Love. Fick, did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, Jack's still here, I think, but he did back. But yeah.
Do you want me to play this one with where he talked about Jordan Love?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. No, we don't have to. We don't.
You can play if you want. If you got it on your thing.
Yeah. Let me just play the audio. So this one is Jordan, or he was basically talking about a NFL audio clip, or what is it? NFL films. Where he was mic'd up. Mm-hmm. And he called Jordan Love a little. I guess we can call it a little bitch.
A little bitch. Yeah.
Yeah. It was very, very funny. One of the better parts of the press conference, and I think it was Herb Howard that asked this question.
Yeah,
so
it was from the Bigs.
Trash talking with Coach. I saw a mic'd up clip with you. I was playing the Packers, and you passionately told Jordan Love to pipe down.
Go ahead, finish. What else I said?
I can't.
Oh no! Did I press it?
That's fine. You were playing.
You know what I mean? I'm glad you know what I'm talking about, though. Was that just a regular football interaction, or was that something just a little bit more?
Man, you know, when you're playing ball, man, you know, doing this, you know, being professional and being able to talk and communicate with people is something. But when you're playing ball, you cross some lines, you got to be able to go in that dark place, you know. And sometimes what happened in that dark place, you know, it get a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? And just being a competitor and like I talked about mic'd up with some of the new media team here, and I was like, yeah, I know I got some crazy ones. And that was released. So the stuff that's not released got to be super crazy. But you got to have that dog in you. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, Jordan Love is a good quarterback. But, you know, my thing is, so if you already can't hit the quarterback so many different ways. And so, first of all, I chased him down the field over 50 yards. I went and caught him. So I got that speed on me too. Now it was 2 years ago, so I'm only getting faster. So then to walk away from me talking mess, I mean, what we doing? We you know what I'm saying? But I'm excited to get to go against him 2 times a year now, and you know, just try to you know, help this organization get some wins over that other team.
It's great. It's a great answer.
Yeah.
So
it is.
How
great.
How do you not pumped up after watching it? Obviously, he needs to produce on the field. See, like, this is my only thing. It's really, I know Jack was concerned about, like, he's not too worried about the age, but with the defensive tackle position, typically you will see regression from age 30 to 32, right? So he's coming on 32, right? He hasn't obviously regressed completely, but if he can still be somewhat productive, and I saw a comment in here that, like, he's not going to be taking a lot of the snaps, which is definitely true, right? It's definitely going to be a rotation, which is good. But as long as he can be somewhat productive and it's not a major fall off, this is a win across the board. But there is obviously the other side of the coin where that can happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but it can happen at age. I mean, think about Aaron Darnold retired at 32. So Grady Jarrett literally is playing longer than Aaron Donald, and he was the top of his game. So, you know, we'll have to wait and see. Like you said to start off the show, you know, these guys haven't played it down yet. All of this is projection, some more than others, but I do appreciate the process. So I'm definitely, I don't want to make it sound like I do not like the move. I'm just saying I'm hoping that the age isn't a factor, as big as a factor as it could be.
Yeah. And there's only so much you could, when it comes to these evaluations in March, there's only so much you can't do much about it. So it'll be more interesting. I think you'll get a real indication, you know, of course, training camp come July, August, but then of course, when the pads come on and it's actual regular season games, that's what we'll see. But I like it. Let's see here.
I do want to go
have...
let's go to our break real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because I realize we're about 40 minutes in. We probably should do that before we hit up the rest of these. So first off, thank you all for joining the BFR podcast, the number one show for the fans, by the fans. We really do appreciate that here on a Wednesday night as we talk free agency, talk some draft like we did. We really do. You guys appreciate hopping on the show. Again, this is the number one show for the fans, by the fans. Dave, me, Jack, we're fans just like you. We enjoy all the ups and downs of this team. We go through all the roller coaster of emotions like y'all. So we're trying to build a community here. Excuse me. Realize I'm losing my voice halfway through this read. Not great. But if you are here, please like and subscribe. That is free. We really do appreciate it. FTA, it helps out the algorithm. For the algorithm, helps get this show out to more people like you, whether you're on Twitter, which I'll not call X, Facebook, YouTube, and also a podcast listener as well, wherever you listen to your podcast. We appreciate every single one of you. If this is your first time, first off, welcome to the BFR show. Please give a hashtag new face gang in the chat. We'll give you a shout out before the end of the show because, we love to show the support for all of y'all. And for the OGs, because I see a bunch of them in here. If you're an OG in here, which means this is not your first time, but you have been a part of the BFR community, you've watched multiple shows, then please leave a hashtag OG in the chat, and we'll make sure to star that and give you a shout out before the end of the show. Also, like I said, we are building a community here, and there's a great way that you can do that and join that community, and that is joining our Patreon. That's the BFR Den on Patreon. We have exclusives, monthly giveaways, private Zoom call, which we just had last weekend, mailbag episodes, and much, much more. We have two tiers of it. We have our Hall of Fame Patreon tier, which is $10. This gets you access to the private Zoom call with Dave, Jack, and I every month. And just want to give a shout out to the Hall of Fame Grizzlies. We got Michael, Gage, Phillip, and then Michael Berry. And Michael, we got your voicemail. I know we couldn't get your one last week, so we will post that here at the end of the show. And then also give a shout out to our rookie Grizzlies. I saw Alex in the comments. So shout out to you, Alex, Brian, Chris, Jason, and Eston. Much love. That's a $3 tier. That's like less than a cup of coffee. You join that, you still get access to the private Discord. You still get the monthly giveaways. You still get the mailbag episodes. The only difference between the rookie and the Hall of Fame tiers, the Hall of Fame tier gets the private Zoom calls with the team. So if you want to support us, please do that. All the money from the Patreon just goes right back into the show. Speaking of Patreon, for our Patreon members as well, I haven't even told Dave. Well, no, I think I told you guys this before I went to Nashville, but we have special merch coming out just for our Patreon members. So it's Patreon exclusive merch, which has a nice little thing to kind of call out that you're a Grizzly member. So it's really cool. And it's going to be our new merch drop, but specialized for you. So this week, probably Friday, I'm going to drop that on the Patreon, and you guys are all going to get access to that private link that only you guys have access to, and you'll be able to get that special merch that you can't get anywhere else. And then everyone else will kind of get the other merch drop that will come near draft week. So we're really excited about that. Again, trying to give as much exclusive stuff, bring as much value as we can through there. So we really love that. We love talking to y'all on there, talking to you on the Discord, Twitter, everywhere like that. So thank you so much. If you want to join that, again, that's the BFR Den on patreon.com. Also, if you want to see that fire merch, you can go ahead and go to the BFRstore.com. It's not there yet, but it will be. But we still have our normal name brand BFR logos with our hats, hoodies, sweatshirts. Also, we give these away monthly. I think we just gave away a shirt to Phil last month. And then we gave, I think Michael won as well. He won a shirt as well. I think you both won shirts for the past 2 months. So if you guys want some, it's a great way to get it. You can get your money back right away just from getting free merch in the monthly giveaway. So shout out again to our Patreon members. We love y'all. And then obviously, if you're not a Patreon member, you can join also for free just to kind of get a feel of the land. We post our monthly schedules on there so you can see like the value we bring and all that. So I know I've been going on for a minute, but I just want to nail that home. We really do appreciate all the love and support from you Patreon members, and also love and support from all of the rest of the people that just hop on this show and watch, whether you watch live or watch later or watch on your favorite podcast. We really do appreciate all that. We try to really spotlight y'all. So again, make sure if it's your first time, hashtag new face gang like we always do. And then if it's not your first time, you're a true OG, give me a hashtag OG. And then one final thing, down here, you can see a little voicemail line, speakpipe.com/the BFR podcast. If you go to that during any time, you want to talk about you could do it right now. You go leave a voice, you hold a button, talk on the phone, right? And it'll send a message to us, and we play all of them as long as they're like appropriate, right? And we post them on all of our shows. We definitely do it on our post games. You guys love to send them in for that. But even right now, if you want to send one in, we could bring it up for the next show and things like that. And we're going to be sharing Michael's voicemail line here at the end of the show as well. So I think that is it. Did I miss anything, Dave? I know I just went on for like 5 minutes.
No, let's hop back into it. Let me see here. So we have a couple things. So obviously we didn't discuss Drew Dahlman yet. The league's worst kept secret. He did sign with Chicago, 42 million. So it was 3 years, 42 million, 28 million guaranteed. Not much to say on this one. I think this is a home run. We wanted it. Some people were afraid we'd overpay. I think we got him at market, just $1 million under what his market was. So they saved about $1 million. Also, it was revealed that by CBS, I think it was Jonathan Jones, that he turned down money. Chicago was not offering the most, but he decided to sign with Chicago just due to his belief with obviously Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, and what Chicago has and their vision. So I'm excited. I love that he signed here. Turned down money. Love to hear that, obviously, just because, I mean, these guys are here. This is their profession. So obviously they're trying to get paid. So any quick thoughts on Drew Dahlman at center? Again, this inside, I mean, they've really retooled both sides of the ball, but the interior offensive line is it looks really awesome. So,
I mean, you kind of nailed on the head when you said, worst kept secret. Cause they had been linking Dahlman to us like the past 2 days prior to it. So I kind of assumed it was going to be one of the first deals, and it was. So I'm happy about it though. Like, that's in the past 3 years, he's been a top 4 center in the NFL, right? Is it maybe a little bit of an overpay? Not by his projection, but just like how much money you give out. Yeah, but it's free agency. That happens.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, right? Ben Johnson talked about the Panthers example. Someone asked him, not in today's presser, but a previous one. I think it was at like the combine. They're like, well, do you feel like you can flip the team? I mean, you can flip the O-line in one offseason. He was like, well, yeah, there's teams out there that have done that. And he gave the Panthers as an example. Well, if you look at what he's done to this offensive line, I mean, him and Poles, they've completely flipped it. The biggest question marks was literally from guard to guard, center, guard. What are we doing in the interior? And now we have 3 solid starters in the interior, and you already have your starting tackles. Excuse me, your starting tackles on the outside. So, like, hats off. So I am very happy with all of the moves that they've done on the offensive side. So I'd give it like an A, to be honest. I think that's like a really great signing. And like you said, you want to protect Caleb. He got hit 68 times. I mean, he got sacked 68 times last year.
Yeah.
Like, this is the way to do it.
What's funny enough is Jonah Jackson was able to, I think he talked about how much Caleb Williams was sacked. And that was one of the things he's ready to fix. But when it comes to the risk with Dahlman, I don't see too much. Obviously limited to 9. He was limited to 9 games last year due to a left ankle injury. And then of course there's some, maybe scheme issues, not an ideal fit when it comes to what Johnson deploys in the run game. I've heard that. But at the end of the day, I mean, and he's also maybe a little bit smaller, I guess, than what, but I mean, we've had Coleman Shelton, Sam Mustipher, we've had that. So for me, from what I've heard, just for year two, Caleb Williams, and obviously the next 3 years, I think Dahlman's going to be just a huge upgrade, massive upgrade. The Bears needed to invest at center. The stopgap between Sam Mustipher, Ryan Bates, Coleman Shelton, it just was not working out, right? They did the same thing with Justin, where they really never solidified outside of maybe Cody Whitehair, but he kind of was on the decline during that period. So I love the investment here. I also want to show a clip here, moving on, because we're talking about the interior of the line. So if I can just play this one too. We don't have to share the video, but if you want to pull it up and it works out, it'd be great. Cool. It's in regards to Jonah Jackson, because he did talk about, obviously, Caleb Williams getting sacked a lot. And another guy that I really enjoyed listening to, obviously both these guys they did a dual presser, which I kind of love. Caleb's protection, right here, these bodyguards, but it was he was asked about moving to right guard, because Ben Johnson did confirm that the plan, and he said it very confidently, that they are going to basically keep Joe Thuney, obviously all pro, at left guard. Jonah Jackson is going to go to right guard. Obviously, Tevin Jenkins is all but out the window. However, he is gaining some traction in Cincinnati, apparently, to be signed. So if he signs for anything over $5 million, Ficky, correct me if I'm wrong here, the Bears will get a compository comp pick of a 6th or 7th round pick.
Correct.
And all it has to do is have to be $5 million or more.
And he'll get more than that. So I think we'll get a 6 probably.
And another thing, I think the Bears, they can't sign someone. There's a certain amount of money they can't sign.
Correct.
They can't sign another free agent, and they don't even have that much.
They don't have much now. Yeah, they have their cap is. I think it hasn't been announced.
I've seen so many different projections.
Well, where they're at right now, not counting Dayo and Dahlman because they haven't been announced by the social team.
Yeah.
Like only counting the guys that were introduced today, we're at 22 million. But what it's assumed to be, again, I'm quoting this. I think this was ESPN had it at 5 million left with.
But how can they tell when it comes to like signing bonuses and stuff? Like
that's what I'm saying. I don't know
there's
if
stuff
they have
around
back-end
that
information.
can limit the cap hit for this year, or they can make it more. Right? We saw it last year where polls actually they had so much money to spend that they decided to do more in year one as far as the cap hit. So I'll be interested to see what these guys do. Right? How all the kind of
details.
Yeah, how it all kind of flows in regards to what they want to do spending wise in year one with a lot of these contracts. So, but Jonah Jackson on moving to right guard, because like I said, Ben Johnson did confirm it. This is very interesting because I'll get to it here. I'll play the clip and I'll tell you why I think it's so interesting. So
is that a concern for you at all?
Not at all. Actually, my first start in the NFL was at right guard versus Chicago Bears. So I think I'll be just fine.
That right there is what I was talking about, because his first start, and I went back and looked at it, Pro Football Focus, kind of see when that first snap was. It was back in 2020. He had, I think it was over 300 snaps at right guard during that year. Now, he hasn't played a lot since. I think he had like 61 last year or something along those lines. But the most interesting part is when his first game was against Khalil Mack. I think Robert Quinn was there. Akeem Hicks, Roy Robertson Harris. So, I mean, the Bears defense wasn't elite. It wasn't 2018, but 2020, they still had some firepower, especially early on in year one. But I love the confidence coming out of Jonah Jackson. Also, it really, really equals or matches what Ben Johnson, because I don't have the clip here. Otherwise, I'll pull it up. But the way he talked about both of these guys, of course, Joe Thuney, all-pro, 2-time last 2 years. But the way he talked about Jonah Jackson almost seemed like he was pissed off on how the Rams handled him. And I think he's going to have such a bounce back year. I'm super, super excited about him and what he's going to be able to do in Chicago. But so any final thoughts on him before we move?
I would say for Jonah though, what I feel better about is that his best years were at the position he's going to play and with the coach that he has now. Yeah, so that brings a little bit of right, because if you were to say Jonah Jackson last year, right, and even if he's playing right guard, like with Chris Morgan as your offensive line coach, I'm not feeling as confident that you're going to get the best version of Jonah Jackson. So then that trade may not seem worth it, right? But for some reason, again, we don't know yet because we haven't seen Ben Johnson as a head coach, right? We haven't seen any of these new coaches and how they coach on this team. But based off the talent we brought in and, just looking at what we know now, I feel much more comfortable saying that I think Jonah Jackson is going to get closer, not saying it's going to be Pro Bowl, but closer to the best of his ability, right? And I think Ben Johnson said on the presser as well. He said he is a Pro Bowl caliber guard, and we are going to get that from him. Like, I'm pretty sure he said like verbatim, like something like very close. And so that brings confidence in me, because then it's like, okay, if you get a Pro Bowl type guard, you already have Thuney, who's a Pro Bowl guard, all pro, future Hall of Famer, right? Has the potential to be a Pro Bowl type tackle. Like, he's still a top 15 tackle. So I would take that. And then Braxton Jones more up in the air. And then Dahlman is a top 5 center. Like, now you've got people like our line went from bottom 5 easily to now top 15 for sure. I'd feel very confident top 15. We'll have to see how it takes a while for him to gel.
The floor was raised. The floor was 100%. Raised, and that's what
on both
sides.
What
you need with Caleb and him heading into year 2. So I like it. One other name we'll touch on real quick before we kind of get to that voicemail. make sure I'm saying this right. Dayo Odeyingbo.
I think the last name.
Odeyingbo?
I can't remember.
Odeyingbo, I believe.
That one.
We'll yeah. Correct us if
We'll
we're
look
wrong.
at that.
Sure we're wrong, but we'll get it right by the season. Dayo signed a 3-year, $48 million with $32 million guaranteed out of Indianapolis. Bears found their pass rusher to play opposite Montez Sweat. I know it's not popular. I like it. He's young, 6'5", 280. Fits Dennis Allen, kind of what he's wanting, that bigger type edge, can go inside out. Obviously, there's some people are not happy with this, right? There's I think there's quite a few either camp. I think as each day progresses, I think people are falling a little bit more in love with it. His length, size allow him to match up with the interior offensive lineman without a disadvantage. But here's where the risk comes in. Odeyingbo is not a finished product. That's the biggest thing here, right? It's a lot of projections. However, it's not like it's the NFL draft where you're bringing these guys. He has shown some tape. Indy was.
They weren't a good defense.
They weren't that. They could not get pressure. Every team, in my opinion, was able to kind of get the ball out pretty quickly, which limits any type of pass rush. Ask the Bears last year.
Yeah, for sure.
It killed them. It killed them at times. So some of the things, most of his snaps in career games come as a backup. That's another thing. I wasn't really, he has 19 starts. So I'm like, okay, so there is some risk here. I think the Bears are betting on him. They have to be, that his best production is ahead of him. It has to be. And it'll be interesting to see what he does with Montez Sweat. And hopefully this helps multiply the defensive line. I think also what people got to take into consideration with this one here is the athleticism. The Bears defense, that secondary, it had a down year. Like I think we all thought it would be top 5 throughout the entirety of the year. I think it started off really hot, dwindled because of the pass rush or lack thereof. Yeah. Now you're going to have playmakers both on the inside, obviously Jarrett Allen. You still got Andrew Billings, who was hurt last year. The Bears missed him.
Oh, for sure.
He went down.
Yeah, any team could run on us.
Who needs another guy at least to get some pressure, right?
Yeah.
But all of these moves to get like at the defensive line, whether it's the edge or interior, is going to help both the linebackers and that secondary play better, right?
Yep.
Obviously, Kyler Gordon, hope they extend him. God, I hope they extend him. If they're listening at all, or just please put it out there. It's always best to get ahead of that. But for me, I think we're going to truly see how elite this secondary can be. And it's going to allow hopefully those linebackers, Edmonds and Edwards, shout out to Jack Sanborn reuniting with Flus here.
Flus, yeah.
Getting paid, but I just think we're going to see a better secondary and I think everyone is going to basically benefit from these caliber players that are coming in because they just lack so much. I think they're outmatched talent wise on that line, defensive line. So I'm excited about the pick. I'm curious.
I'm excited too. Look, football is the number 1 team sport in all the sports, right? You got 53 players, like they all work in tandem with each other, some more than others, right? But when you make a great point, like when you look at the units, you look at your defensive line versus secondary, they kind of have a balance to each other, right? The better your defensive line is, the more pressure they can get, the bigger risk that your secondary can take because they know their quarterback is going to get the ball out quick. So they can jump passes earlier, jump routes earlier, which could lead to possible interceptions, right? Inversely, defensive line is not getting a lot of time. You could have really good secondary, but if quarterbacks got all day, sooner or later, someone's going to get open because the secondary isn't, they don't have they can't read their minds. You know what I mean? It's like a magic 8 ball. They can shake and know exactly what concepts, what plays are running, right? Very reactionary. So obviously, as one unit gets better, the other one does as well. So when you look at the process as overall from a high level, yes, I think you use the term, it raised the floor. This raised the floor of the defense in all areas, right? When your defensive line plays their gaps, right? Especially you're talking about your interior, your linebackers can hit their holes. They can hit their gaps correctly, right? So now your linebacker play is elevated. So say all that to be like, this one is definitely more of a risk because it's more based off projection, right? But when you tie it in with getting someone like a Grady Jarrett, right, that makes you feel a little bit better. And when you look at this holistically, this also, like we talked about, allows you to be more selective at 10, right? What I always thought, when you have the money, right, you just don't want to throw money everywhere. Obviously, you hope these guys were evaluated correctly and they're productive, right? But you want to attack free agency to attack your needs. So then you do have that autonomy to take whoever you want at 10. And I feel like if you're to walk away now, right, because signings are mostly done, like the ones for the starters, you filled every hole. You needed all three interior. Those are done. You needed another defensive tackle and edge. Those are done, right? It doesn't mean you can't get better people in the draft, but those are at least like you can put a football team out there and be like, okay, yeah, this is now an upgrade based off the team we had last year due to the money that we had to spend. So overall, like it's more of like if it's just silo with Dayo, then I'm like, no, I'm not like super excited about that. It's a lot of money because I don't. It's again a lot of projection. It's harder for me to get excited behind that because I don't know his historical stats doesn't show like, oh yeah, this man's gonna be dominant. But when you tie it in with all the other moves, I step back and go, this team got significantly better in its two weakest areas on both sides of the ball, which was obviously the trenches. So I then kind of look at this and group it all together and go, I feel great about what Ryan Poles did with the money that he had. So now the good one is, though, with this risk, if this one hits, you're locked in because he's 26. So like this is something that could really turn out to be, a really good steal if you're able to coach him up to the best of his ability. The only problem is, though, this is a whole new coaching staff. I feel confident that these coaches are better than last year's coaches, but we do not know the effect and impact they're going to have on their individual groups. So we'll have to kind of wait and see if that development can be quicker than what we expect.
Yeah, well said. I love it so far. Really great week and a half or so for Chicago. So let's go ahead. We'll get to our shout outs, but if we want to play that voicemail before we get out of here, and then we'll do our shout outs and we'll get out of here. So appreciate the support. If you can, hit that like button. A lot of you in the chat live on YouTube, hit that like button if you can.
Yeah, really do appreciate it. Again, if you want to leave a voicemail, geez, my voice is definitely going out. If you want to leave a voicemail, you can leave it down there with that the URL speakpipe.com/BFR podcast. Holy cow. Let's get to this voicemail before I have no voice. Okay, 1 second. Let me play it right here. And this is from Mike Barry, who is a Hall of Fame Patreon member. So shout out to you, Mike. But let's see what you got.
Yo, what up? It's your boy Mike. Hey, I got to give a shout out to another Hall of Fame Grizzly, Phil. Check it out. We can't be the only ones getting #Paradise over. I need everyone to join in on that stuff. As always, F the Packers, go Bears.
Appreciate it, Mike. Also, shout out to our other Hall of Fame Patreon. I know he's in the chat, Phil. Shout out to Phil as well.
Sir.
Shout out to all of y'all and all of you newbies as well. I think we saw in here. I think you put it on there. There's a new one who just liked and subbed, Foster here. So Foster, appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining the BFR community. Again, this is the #1 show for the fans, by the fans, because Dave and I are just like y'all, and we just love this team. And we are so excited about these moves that they made. So I'm really happy about that. Okay, let's get to the shout outs. And if there's any like questions that maybe pop up and we can answer quickly, like a rapid fire, we'll do that. But okay, first off, wait a second. Let me get the music going here for a second. All right, let's get to the comments here for a second. All right. We got Michael Berry, obviously, with the voicemail here with the #OG. He said, play my voicemail. Phil, we did that, so appreciate that, Michael. Then we got Phil in here, who he's literally talking to. #OG, we're living in paradise. I love that. Then we got Alex here, who's also a Patreon member. #OG Grady Jarrett is a Akeem Hicks 2.0. That's exactly what I was thinking, to be honest. Like, I was definitely giving those vibes. Romy here with the #OG. I remember when Ficky had that flow. Yep, RIP to that. That is definitely gone. We got Dobbsy here on YouTube with the #OG. Thank you, Dobbsy. And I love the Abby. That's fire. Then we got Kyler, who used to be a New Face Gang. I say it every time, but #OG. Bears are the king of free agency. Bear down. Yes, 3rd year in a row. Bears win the offseason. We're undefeated. So hopefully we can win some games. But J-Dog here on YouTube with the #OG. I hope that is your card because that is a beautiful specimen. Then we got Mr. James in here with the #OG. When is the Grady Jarrett jersey giveaway? Was that yours? Is he referring to you?
No. It's whoever. It's not. Mine's not Grady Jarrett. It's whoever they want. So I'm not sure if someone else did one, but
yeah, I don't.
Mine's
well,
if
maybe
mine's
Jack did
if you
one,
want. No, I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah, I didn't do one either.
That man's been
so-
swamped.
Yeah, for sure he has. Poor Jack. Okay, we do have some quick questions here. Actually, let me see because I know people throw these on late. Let me make sure I'm getting everyone. Yeah, we got Tito in here as well. True OG. Also, thank you for the $5 super chat, Tito, and also it was great to see you this past weekend on our Patreon. So that's fire. I'll go ahead and give a hashtag Paradise as well from there from Michael. Okay, perfect. And then we'll go ahead and do these questions real quick. And let's see if we'll do rapid fire here. So, number one here from Michael Barry. And actually, I think we were talking about this before the show, but do you think Omarion Hampton at 10 if Genty's gone? Or we talked about in the beginning of the show, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so I think we said possible, but like Pohl said, anything can happen now. Which is going to make the draft exciting because it's going to feel like how it was last year at 9, where we're like, oh, we could get Rome, right? If the cards fall right. So it kind of be interesting to see if there's like a fan favorite once we get closer to the draft. But 100%, this could happen. 100%. Let me see. Okay, here we go. From Foster as well, our new sub, appreciate it. Said, who do you want with the first pick, whatever it is? So position-wise, I think Dave, you said this earlier, but you said offensive tackle would be nice.
Yeah, I'm honestly anything but running back. And now if we draft Genty at 10, I'm going to be super, super hyped. Obviously, I'm going to be all in, bought in. But at the same time, where I stand right now, I don't want to see a running back with that 10th overall pick, especially with I feel like you can get a guy later in with one of your seconds or even third. So for me personally, anything but running back. It's a Debbie Downer pick, I know. But again, if they do make that selection, I will be absolutely
we'll get hype, yeah.
And we'll delete this clip.
All of them.
So
no, that's a good point. And it's a very deep running back draft. So like I know Jack gave some example of some people, but like Caleb Johnson, you've got both guys from Ohio State. So, you definitely can wait for that. Just like Foster here said, running back is a deep class. So definitely is. Okay, we got one more OG. I just want to catch this. Caleb on YouTube. Appreciate that. And then final question here, Dobsy34, who gave the OG. He said, do you know his the numbers for the Bears yet? And I don't think any of them have been announced. So they haven't even announced all of the signings yet. So like the Dolman one still has to be announced, and so does
physicals have to be completed.
Yep. So. And the physicals didn't have to be completed for the trades were already done to make the trade go through. And then Grady Jarrett got released, so you don't have to rely on a physical for that. So, but yep. Okay, I think that is in. Dave, do you have anything else?
No, we'll be back early next week, I believe. We are getting into draft season. So if you want to stick around or if you want to be a part of some mock drafts, we're going to do some live ones on the show where you guys are going to help us pick players. And then we're going to go ahead and post them and see which mock is the best. So a lot of good content draft-wise coming through. We'll have some analysts on. So if you can, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to stick around, get some more Bears news. I know there's a lot of great Bears shows, podcasts. So we appreciate all the love and support. So if you can, before you hop off, hit that like button, subscribe. Shout out to our Spotify, Apple listeners as well. I know you guys listen over on those platforms. So again, thank you. Check out my work, sportsmockery.com. Have articles up at least a few times a week. And then, of course, follow the boys, Ficky, Jack, and I. You see our users here. So, and follow the pod on all socials, BFR_pod. So that's all I have. And bear down.
Peace.